And the topic is what is money? What is the future of money? What is Bitcoin? So I will be handing over to Geoff for the prepared speech.
Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, my name is Geoff Peters, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about some thoughts about money. In particular, I'm going to tell you what is money in terms of what is the main function of money in our society. Then I'll talk about what's interesting about Bitcoin in terms of what it does in terms of money. And then I'll talk a bit about some of the disadvantages of Bitcoin as well. To start off with, I'd like to tell you the story about the seashells. Let's say that your government, whether you're in US, Canada, or India, or any other country, declared that from now on, we will accept seashells as the main method of payment for your taxes, and we encourage everyone in the country to use seashells as the form of money. When you're buying things, buying a house, you should pay in seashells, and if you are buying a car, you should pay in a suitcase of seashells, etc. What do you think would happen to the beaches of the world if this was the case? I think a lot of people would go to the beach right away and bring many different bags and fill them up with as many seashells as they could find. And they might even go to far off places, to distant islands, and find as many seashells as they could and put them in their bag. And it might take suitcases and suitcases of seashells to buy a home. Maybe some intrepid sea farmers would grow clams and other mollusks to produce more seashells to increase the supply of seashells. So seashells are not a very hard form of money because they're quite easy to get, and you can even grow more of them by farming clams. Whereas if you look at a money like gold, even if people say gold is the most valuable money and we should use it as money, there's a very limited amount of gold in the world. And you cannot just go to the park and dig in the ground and find more gold. To mine gold is a very expensive operation, which requires you to have lots of equipment, have access to some land that has a gold in it, and then it's very expensive to mine gold. And even if you do mine some gold, the amount of gold that currently exists in the world is so big compared to the amount of gold that you would mine. So gold still becomes a very valuable form of money. When we talk about digital currencies like Bitcoin, this is where we can compare them to seashells and gold. Is Bitcoin more like seashells, or is Bitcoin more like gold? Well, Bitcoin has a limit of only 21 million Bitcoin can ever exist in the world. That is because in the software code of Bitcoin, it has a limit on how much Bitcoin will ever be produced, and after a certain amount of time, no more Bitcoin will ever be created. And this is only enforced because the software code for Bitcoin, which is open source and available on GitHub, enforces this limit of 21 million. Now, why can't someone just go and change the source code and make more Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is made on a network of people running Bitcoin mining and validator nodes, and only the code that is in the most majority of all these systems will actually be used for the actual Bitcoin. So if one person decides to change the 21 million limit to say 50 million or more, then they will actually be creating a new cryptocurrency that's different from Bitcoin, and all the people who still have the original code will now have Bitcoin. So this is why it's very difficult for anyone to change the amount of Bitcoin that can be created. And because of this, Bitcoin becomes scarce like gold. It's hard for people to create more of it, and if you do have some, it becomes a scarce resource or a hard form of money. But interestingly enough, Bitcoin has some downsides. You may have heard of how Bitcoin uses so much energy to mine Bitcoin. And you can see the picture here shows nuclear plants, coal plants. Bitcoin requires a lot of energy because if you want to mine more Bitcoin, you have to run what's called the proof of work algorithm, which is doing a lot of complicated mathematical calculations to actually produce more Bitcoin. And as more people want to get Bitcoin, more people will consume more and more energy to mine the Bitcoin using specialized hardware. And unfortunately, the way Bitcoin is designed, it's not possible for it to change from proof of work to any other form of mining. And even though Greenpeace has done a major campaign to say, let's make Bitcoin green and change it to a different system so we don't use so much of the world's energy, more than some countries, on mining Bitcoin, unfortunately, because the way Bitcoin works in the network, if you try to change the monetary policy of Bitcoin, it would now just become a different cryptocurrency and no longer Bitcoin. So this is why I have a mixed feeling about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that use proof of work. Even though they are much better than seashells for a form of money, you can't just get more of it easily, and it does have the cap of 21 million Bitcoin. We have a big problem about proof of work mining, which consumes so much energy. And some people would say that this energy is not used for no reason. They say that the energy is used to secure the network and provide a way for the Bitcoin to be independent from governments influencing the policy. For example, Ethereum, which does not use so much energy, is controlled by a group of people who own the most Ethereum, because they use what's called a proof of stake network. So this is what I'd like to present today. I would say if you're interested in the technology, definitely look into investing in a little bit of Bitcoin, because it could possibly be a money that becomes very popular in the future. And I definitely think it is a better form of money than seashells, but I don't really like how Bitcoin uses so much energy and causes so much waste of energy around the world. I think Bitcoin uses more than the country of Iceland for mining across the world. So that's my conclusion of my speech. Definitely, if you're interested in cryptocurrencies, it's a really interesting topic to research, especially from a technology perspective and how people are creating new forms of money. But I would say look out for scams and beware of using too much energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As usual, your speech is always very much informative for all of us.